Hey, welcome to the Flow and Flourish Podcast. This is the safe space where we talk openly and honestly about all the things that can come up as we juggle competing priorities and learn how to put ourselves first so that we can flow and flourish in every single area of our lives. In order to do that, though, I believe that you have to understand the connection between your ability to flow and flourish and your capacity. So I have based this podcast on 5 different areas of flow that will help you to increase your capacity for sustainable success throughout your personal and professional life. If you are new to the podcast, then welcome to your tribe of like-hearted and like-minded women who are here to support you, encourage you, and snatch your edges when you need it, because that's what we do here. Just know that you are in good company and are exactly where you're supposed to be. So keep listening. For those of you who are not new to this, but true to this, welcome back to the podcast. I am so thankful for each and every one of you, and I'm excited to get into today's episode, which is being brought to you by the Capacity Calculator. Yes, this is a free tool that I created for each and every one of us so that we can regularly check our capacity. This tool is made so that you have an idea of how much capacity you actually have. And remember, capacity is the amount of time and resources you have available to do all the things you need to do in your personal and professional life. So if you have not taken it before, then I highly encourage you to go ahead, go take it now. And even if you've taken it before, take it again. This tool is here for you to check your capacity on a regular basis so that you can flow and flourish in every single area of your life. The link is right here in the show notes as well as all over my social media. And if you can't find it, let me know. In the meantime, let's get the show started. Can I just say that I have missed y'all? Yes, I have. And it feels so good to be back and to be talking and to really just share, some of my own experiences with you all in hopes that what you hear today helps you to do whatever it is that you need to do when it comes to what we're talking about, which is giving yourself permission to pause. I want to apologize because I feel like, I did. I kind of stopped the podcast and stopped showing up in social media kind of abruptly. And normally that's not how I operate. But because I've been through a season where I know what it's like to not listen to my body, I had to do what I had to do. And so for the last month or two, I really have been leaning into and practicing what I'm about to preach on giving myself permission to pause. And it was not easy. Can I say that? Because I know for those of you who are listening, who are busybodies, who are the ones, right? You see my air quotes? The ones who do everything. If I don't do it, the world's going to fall apart, like all of those different things. It's almost terrifying to pause. Like, I'm sorry, you want me to do what? Do you not know how important I am? Do you not know that I'm the glue that holds everything together? Like, those were the kind of thoughts that were going through my head. And then when you add on top of that you are running a business and or you are out here trying to change people's lives and create impact and people are looking for you and checking for you, that adds another layer on top of it. So when I say this was not easy, it was not easy, but it's gotten easier over time for me. And I recognize the importance of being able to do it in an intentional way versus me being sent to the hospital like I was almost 3 years ago in 2019. Although I am the capacity coach, that does not make me any less human. And so as a human, we tend to fall back into our natural patterns, deal with things in ways that we are accustomed to dealing with them. And what I'm talking about is the pattern that I fell into after my dad passed away. Now, while I was managing my capacity and taking on, these new roles and doing things, what I didn't realize until probably towards the end of September, maybe middle of October, is that I was throwing myself back into work because it worked before when I was grieving. But this time was a little different. Like, this hurt was deeper. My situation was so different. And I didn't want to run from the pain anymore. I didn't want to hide from it. And I was literally exhausted from trying to act like I really was okay, when in reality, I wasn't. I was literally using the work that I do as a capacity coach, as a speaker, as an HR consultant to keep me busy so that I didn't have to feel, so that I didn't have to think. And the crazy thing is, what really helped me recognize that was my son, my now 7-year-old son, who was 6 at the time. He said, "Mommy, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, sweetie, why do you say that?" "Because you look sad in your eyes," is what he said. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You're smiling on your face, but you look sad in your eyes. Are you sad about Grandpa?" Because I am too. And at that moment, I tried not to fall to pieces in front of him, but listen, us as moms, we know sometimes it happens. I cried and I got myself together, and the very next day, I said, all right, I got to do this different. I'm going to give myself permission to pause for whatever that looks like. And now, almost 2 months later, I'm here to talk to you about that in case you are struggling to give yourself permission to pause. Now, when this airs, it's going to be the last Tuesday of 2021. So many people, and I hope you're one of them, are using their PTO, taking time off, hopefully still working remotely. And it's a good opportunity to practice this permission to pause. Because right now, the world is kind of slowing down because of the holidays. And I know that may not be true for everywhere, but in general, things tend to slow down towards the end of the year so people can reflect and, get set up for the year ahead. And so I am intentionally releasing this episode during this time because I want you to deal with whatever it is that comes up for you when you are trying to give yourself permission to pause. So I'm going to give you a couple of things. Number one, I want to address some of the thoughts that come up in our heads when we start considering that it's time for us to pause. I also want to talk about what some of the signs are that we really need to pay attention to when our bodies, our minds, the people around us are telling us that we need to take a pause. And then last but not least, talk to you about the benefits of pausing, because if nothing else, understanding all three of these things is going to help you to make the decision and bust some of the myths, maybe snatch your edges a little bit around what you may have been telling yourself prior to today about pausing. But it's all in an effort to help you be able to have that capacity you need to show up, knock it out of the park, not just next year, but right now, taking the steps that you need to create that balance that you need between your personal and professional life and to show up and be who God called you to be. So let's get into this. I mentioned earlier, some of the thoughts that came up for me. And because we are like-hearted and like-minded, I'm sure if you've ever considered taking a pause or are thinking about it now, that these 3 thoughts have come up for you. And so I want to talk about them one by one and really, myth bust them. That's the best thing I can call it at this moment. So number 1, the first thing that came up for me was, if I don't do this, it won't get done. And so I put that in the frame or lens of the laundry around the house or the doctor's appointments for the kids, the stuff I needed to do for my business, the things that I needed to do for my sister as taking her in. I applied that to every single area of my life. And so I truly was thinking, although I've been through this before, that if I don't do it, it won't get done. So let's pause. That's a whole lie. Because at the end of the day, people are going to figure it out. I know you've heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it again. If you got hit by a Mack truck tomorrow, the world would keep going. Sad, I know, but also very, very true. As much as we like to think this, we are not the end-all be-all. Would it be a little more difficult for somebody else to come step in and pick up where you left off? Yes. But is it impossible? No. So we have to stop thinking that if we don't do it, it won't get done. And in situations where that might actually be the case, so what? What happens if it doesn't get done? Is it gonna cause a world war? Are millions of people going to die? Now, if you are in an occupation or a career where that is true, then you know I am not talking to you. But for the rest of us, if you do not post on social media tomorrow, ain't nobody gonna die. If you do not finish that load of laundry, nobody in your house is gonna run around being naked. If you do not cook dinner, I'm sure somebody from Uber Eats or one of them other delivery companies can make sure that food gets delivered to your house. The point being is that if you do not do it, it still will get done. So we got to stop using that as an excuse to not give ourselves permission to pause. Thought number 2, I don't have time to pause. Wrong. Because whether you have time or not, something or somebody and whoever or whatever it is that you believe, for me, I believe God. God gonna sat you down, right? Not sit you down. God will sat you down. And I know this, y'all know, from my own personal experience. If you don't make the time to pause, things will start to happen in your life that force you to pause. Whether it's a disruption in your relationship, a disruption at work, a disruption of your peace. Something happens when you continue to ignore and dismiss what your body is telling you, what your mind, your heart, people around you, what you actually see with your eyes. Like, you have to learn how to listen to that. So saying you don't have time is no longer valid, ma'am. Because by hook or crook, God gonna sat you down so that you make the time, that necessary time to pause, to rest, restore, reflect, do all the things that are gonna help you to continue going in the long run. So we're not saying I don't have time no more, right? We leaving that in 2021? Okay, good. Glad we all agree. All right. Last but not least, there are so many other ones that I could, talk about, but I wanted to try to keep this episode sort of brief. The third one that I have is, what will people think? Now, I know this was a big one for me because with me, having all of you all as listeners, with my coaching clients, with my HR consulting clients, all of those different things, I'm like, listen, I'm at the height of what has been going on, all the things I've been working for this year. What are people going to think if I just say, you know what, I'm grieving, I need to pause? What is my family going to think if I just pause? And the truth is, I'm going to need you to get real close. It don't matter what nobody think. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to suffer the consequences, as does your friends and family, if you were to just drop dead from stress tomorrow. So we can't be so focused on what somebody else thinks. And might I add, this is an opportunity for us to lead by example. This is where the rubber meets the road with what I talk about in, setting boundaries and being in alignment. And this is also why it's important to keep people around you that are going to keep it real, tell you the truth, whatever it is that you want to say. Because I remember talking to a few of my good sister friends and saying, listen, I really feel like I need to pause. Because if you remember, I tried to pause in July, right? I stopped a little bit, June-ish, July. But then the stuff with my dad happened, so I really didn't get a chance to fully pause the way I intended to. And so I said to a couple of them, and they each said this in their own different way. I'm like, look, I feel like I need to pause. I want to listen to my body. I know that I'm going through something, but I feel like I just need to keep showing up. And so one of them said, so you mean to tell me that if you take a break, the people that follow you, that are looking for you, gonna be mad? And I was like, no, but when you put it that way, all right, then shut it down. I was like, well, okay then. And another one of my sister friends said, hey, aren't you the capacity coach? Like, don't you tell people to do this stuff? So are you gonna practice what you preaching or no? And I was like, dang. So what you not gonna do is snatch my edges. But sometimes, like I said, we need that. And the third person said, what is your body telling you? Like, listen to your body. What is your body telling you? Are you gonna honor that? Or are you gonna go back to the hospital? And so between those conversations and my innocent 6-year-old son recognizing the pain in my eyes, I decided I don't care what nobody thinks. I don't owe anybody an explanation, and I don't even need permission. I'm going to pause and do whatever it is that I need to do to get me together. And so I'm telling you all this because I want you to give yourself that same permission and to do so unapologetically. That's the key piece. I was recording an episode with a good sister friend a couple of weeks ago, and you'll hear this in January, where I talked about pausing unapologetically. Because at first I wanted to run and tell everybody, hey, I'm taking a break, so look back for me in XYZ. No, everybody don't need to know that. Do what you need to do for you, period. Unapologetically, so that you can show up and be the person that God is trying to get you to be, that He called you to be. That's all it comes down to. I'm going to get off my soapbox and move on to some of the signs that are telling you that you need to pause. You know, there are a ton of these, and I do want to give a disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. I am speaking based on my experience, my clients' experiences, and just know that there are many, many more than what I'm about to list. But again, I'm trying to keep this episode a little brief so y'all can get to, the things that you're doing so you can pause. And keep in mind that these are some of the same signs that you will see if you are at max capacity or burnt out or needing to pause. So they all are kind of under the same umbrella. So you want to make sure that you're really paying attention to these. So number one, if you notice that you have zero motivation, so you might be inspired, you might desire to do some things, but you can't do it. You have no motivation. And you don't even know why. That's a sign that you need to pause. Because no matter what you think, no matter what you feel, you're just not motivated to do it. You're like, not today. Maybe later. That's a telltale sign that something is going on. Now, sign number 2 goes hand in hand with this. Your energy is literally on E. No matter how much water you drink, no matter how much sleep you've gotten, like you are on zero energy. Coffee doesn't work. Rock stars don't work. Like nothing that you do is giving you that energy that you need to be able to do the stuff that you want to do. You could be working in the job of your dreams, making more money than you ever imagined. But if your body is exhibiting these signs, it doesn't mean you're not happy. It doesn't mean you're not grateful. It's just telling you you need to sit down somewhere. It's time to pause. The third one kind of goes with this too. It's that you are restless, like restless in your sleep, restless in your thinking, restless in your decision making. So you sleep, but you're not resting. Again, you're waking up still feeling like you didn't sleep the night before. Your mind is constantly going all over the place, like you are literally just restless. And you can't sit still at home, right? Or at the office. Whether you're sitting on the couch trying to watch a movie or you're trying to focus on something that you're doing for your business or for work, you are just restless and your brain is all over the place. That's another one of those signs that something is going on and that you need to take a break. You need to pause to reset. Now, I said I was only going to give 3, but I think that this one is pretty important. So number 4 is that you're in pain physically. It could be, you have a constant headache that won't go away. You got some neck, back, shoulder pain that's happening. You're feeling some throbbing in your hands. Your stomach is in knots. Like your body is literally taking all the stress and things that you are feeling, whether it's mental stress, emotional stress, financial stress, grieving stress, all of those different things, and it's manifesting physically, causing you physical pain. How many of you get, the neck pain when you're stressed and tense? Because I know that's where I carry all of my stress. That means it's time to pause, right? Consistently, say you went and you got that 80-minute massage with the essential oils and the hot stones, but the moment you leave, you're knotted right back up. Sis, you need to pause and assess what's causing this. So I wanted to make sure I shared all of these because these are the things that we typically dismiss, ignore, blatantly pretend like they are not happening. And we got to stop that, or we're going to remain burnt out in the hospital, dying early from heart disease because we're failing to deal with what our body is telling us to do. Take a pause, take a break. That's what this is all about. And so now I want to jump into some of the different benefits that you will experience as a result of giving yourself permission to pause unapologetically. Number 1 is peace of mind. Like, I cannot tell you how peaceful I felt in my mind, body, heart, soul, spirit, all of that when I just decided, hey, I'm just going to pause. Like, I slept better that night. I woke up with more energy the next day. And although at the beginning of this, I said it wasn't easy, it wasn't. But that first day where I made a conscious, intentional decision to pause, baby, whoo, that was some good sleep I got that night. So my peace of mind was so much better, and I didn't have the same level of mental stress of having to keep everything going, of pretending that I was okay when I wasn't. So you are going to get restoration of peace when you decide to pause. Number 2 is that it helps you to reevaluate and refocus. And this is so important because we have no idea the opportunities that are waiting to fall into our laps, to come into our lives, so that we can be out here helping other people. And so had I not taken that time to give myself permission to pause, I absolutely believe 100% that I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to do this diversity, equity, and inclusion training for over 600 people in partnership with the United States government, I should say. And it's because I took the time to pause. So when you do that, you're allowing people and things and opportunities to come into your life that you might otherwise be too busy to handle. Does that make sense? And not even so much busy, but not having the capacity, right? Because if I was still going full throttle with all the other things that I had going on, I wouldn't have had the capacity. So in essence, taking a pause increases your capacity too, boo. Okay, so let's talk about number 3. Last but not least, taking a break enhances both your clarity and creativity. Now, the clarity comes already because you've had the chance to refocus, to rest, to really clear your capacity of stuff that was, taking up room mentally, emotionally, those kinds of things. And with that additional space comes the ability to create. Like, it's so hard to be creative when it's stuff everywhere. Can you imagine? Like, in my mind, I see stuff floating around and I'm, trying to knock stuff out of the way because it's distracting when so many things are flying around all at the same time. So when you think about how vital it is for you to be able to take a break, you no longer care what anybody else thinks. You no longer feel like, I don't have time, because time is all you have, right? And then you don't feel like, you know what, if I don't get it done, it won't happen. Because now you've had the ability to take a break and you see that it still has, and did get done, with or without you, right? So I'll wrap us up in just saying that I know that it's hard for your busy self, for your high achieving, goal slaying, I'm everything to everybody self to take a break. But you need it. Above all else, you need it for you so God can use you to do what He put you here on this earth to do, to fulfill your purpose. You can't do that burnt out. You can't do that in the hospital. You can't do that constantly being in pain. So although I'm talking about serving other people, you don't have the capacity to do that if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not managing those 5 different areas of flow. And believe me, when just one of those areas is out of flow, it throws off your balance. So you got to make sure you're being intentional about managing what's going on in your heart flow, your work flow, your health flow, your cash flow, and of course your faith flow, because all of them work together to help you manage your capacity. Okay? All right. So I know I talked a little bit about clarity earlier, and I just want to give y'all a heads up that next week in the new year, in 2022, Miss Clarity herself will be here on the Flow and Flourish podcast. Miss Jatia Jones. Oh, y'all, I'm so excited about this episode, and I'm going to need you to be ready. So make sure you come right back here next week to listen in. And in the meantime, I pray that you have a wonderful end to 2022, that you are taking a break now after listening to this episode, and that you find a way to incorporate this into your life. And of course, make sure you are sharing this with other people who need to hear it, because we know birds of a feather flock together. So if you are feeling this way and feeling like you need to figure out a way to give yourself permission to pause, I'm sure somebody in your circle is feeling that way too. So share this with them, and then do me a favor and subscribe, and make sure that you're leaving me a 5-star review, because the more reviews I have, the better chances I have of this being even more international and helping so many more people. So that's what I want for Christmas and my upcoming birthday. I know we passed Christmas, but y'all know what I mean. If you could do that, that would be great. And until next week, I am so grateful that I get to be your capacity coach, and I look forward to continuing to help you create balance between your personal and professional life without ever having to sacrifice yourself, your family, and what matters most to you. Talk to you next week.